Boards, games, board games. We might be talking about action timers, but I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and today I'm going to talk about games. Tamsk and Kitchen Rush are some of the names where you flip a timer before you can do a thing that I guess you're kind of waiting to do, and then it's a speed pressure and you want to do these things one soon after the other, but maybe you can't. You've got to wait for the sand to run out. That's what I'm talking about, and I'm not gonna shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. 10 a.m. ish time for Busy Beats and Board Game Bladder. Today we are pondering action timers. Oh my gosh, I slightly misspelt that. I do apologize. We are pondering action timers, and yeah, hello Timmy. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you're generally well. Action timers, as I've just mentioned, are games in which you are flipping timers, and before you are allowed to do something again, you have to wait for it. That I'll get into that in a minute. Let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. Yesterday on my stream, I played this on the easy setting. I made a mistake. So I just want to point that out. Yesterday, when I played on stream, I played that once power is diverted, then you are able to use the room. But the truth is, you're able to use the room once it's fully repaired, and only if it's fully repaired. So the damage actually becomes more meaningful. There's more of a randomness, and thinking about which areas have already been damaged this round, which ones are less likely to be damaged this round can really help. And I did play it again later that day with the correct rules on the hardest setting. I restarted one game after playing one turn and I was, actually this is kind of in a bad situation. And then the other game I managed to win. So hooray! That was good. So I managed to beat it on the hardest difficulty setting. It's a good game. It's a solid game. Will I keep it? Probably not. If you want this game, then leave a comment below and I'll send it to you for postage to someone who comments, and on the not a kind of inline comment, but an actual comment to the YouTube. But yeah, quality game, just so many games out there. Don't know if I'll ever play it again. But it's nice. It's a small box. It's not taking up much space. Got a big experience. Hello, Rob. It is lovely to see you. And I'll see you properly in a wee bit. What have been some of your recent highlights? Let me know. And as always, let's talk about a brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? Well, I guess, let's talk about action timers. I mean, action timers are brilliant because they are forcing you to think, and you don't want to think too much longer than a certain amount, but then you've got your own time to think for sure. Like, it's not quite a pure speed game because you're not just trying to do the thing as fast as possible. And you can't because you've got to wait for the timer to run out. But then at the same time, it puts an interesting speed pressure where rather than do it as soon as possible, you're trying to do it at that exact moment. And it sets a very deliberate pace. So it's almost like saying, this is how long the game's going to go. This is exactly how long you've got. You've got 60 seconds to think about your next move and ponder it. So, brings about a unique kind of dynamic. As always, feel free to comment, ask questions, follow. This whole series, it is influenced. Oh my gosh, where's my book? Just 1 second. I'm going to head off to thank you to Jeffrey Engelstein and Isaac Shalev for this book. Yay! Hooray! Building Blocks of Tabletop Game Design. Second edition is the one that I got. I got the first edition. It's a great book, and this is a book that lists all the mechanisms. I'm going through them in Board Game Geek in the alphabetical order that Board Game Geek has them to try and ponder them all. So, how was it defined? Let me bring up my banners. Yeah, how was it defined, and how does Board Game Geek use it? In the book, it says players place own timers on action spaces and pieces and take an action. When the timer runs out, it may be moved to another location to take that action. There are no turns. Players may move their own timers any time after they have expired. And so it's exactly the same text on Board Game Geek. I will note that 2 of the games on Board Game Geek are definitely not action timers as defined here. Tamsk is a bit of a almost outcast, something doing really weird, but I can see how it works. La Boccia, I think that's just wrongly credited on Board Game Geek. I asked for something to be changed. Let's look at some examples really quickly. Okay, we have Time and Space. Time and Space, a remake of Space Dealer. You've got your own 2 little timers, and then you're putting them on different actions. When you put them onto your ship can move around the board. As you see, there's a board where your ships are, and then everything else, you've just got generating cubes or teleporting cubes to other people, or hey, I've got to demand for a cube, and all of these things, because it's about dealing with people, it's about trading. And then you move around, and then if you get to someone else's planet or they get to yours, then there's some potential for trading, and you can teleport cubes over to their planet, and then that's kind of how you're winning. It's exactly 30 minutes, so not only is there 2 timers that you're constantly flipping, and then you're only allowed to flip them back once they've completely run out, but there's also an overarching timer. And this feels like a really nice game. It feels like an archetypal what this game is capable of doing. We've got Wartime, the Battle of Valiant's Vale. In Wartime, what happens is, ignore the black and blue timers in this photo, but you've got a short timer, 30 seconds, 2 medium timers, 60 seconds, and 1 long one. Whenever you want to move a troop, you put the timer onto the stack of pieces, and then it moves, and once you've done that thing, then you have to wait for the timer before you can reuse that timer, or before you can move that troop again. It's up to you to decide, which of my troops do I want to be the fast one? Which of these troops is best? And at a certain point, maybe I switch it. Maybe it's situational. Maybe this troop is currently in the place where it's going to do a lot more damage or be more effective or whatever. We've got Walkstar. Now, this is an interesting one. Walkstar, yeah, is it really action timer? So let me explain what's going on. You've got a long timer and you've got a short timer. The short timer is about 20 seconds. Every time you flip over the short timer, there's a customer, and as a cooperative game, you need to gather and assemble the cards and get the correct symbols on the dice, and then you say, okay, that's it, and now we've managed to fulfill that customer, and it's a speed game. You're trying to do it within 20 seconds, which is hardly anything. If you do it in over 20 seconds, well, then you get the next customer straight away. If you do it in less than 20 seconds, you need to wait for the timer to flip before you get the next customer. Now, what this means is that if you're actually able to do it in less than 20 seconds, you get a few moments of a break, but then you can't wait too long because this big long timer is constantly pouring, so you need to flip it over as quickly as you can. And it's not, because you get to do so much regardless of the timer. And it's almost like, how difficult is the action to actually perform? In the other games, it's okay, you need to think about it a lot, but then the actual execution, just move a piece around the board. That's not difficult at all. Here, you don't need to think about it much at all. The ingredients that are there are very clear, but it's really about rolling the die and then having the quick thoughts and the actions and assembling the things. But it is still at the case that once it's there, you need to wait. Like, okay, now, okay, new card, new customer comes out, now it's a new thing. So this is, again, a little bit of a departure from what action timers typically are. Walkstar. Then we've got Kitchen Rush, one that I've actually played. I've got to admit I've not played many of these games. In this game, as you can see from the back of the box, there's a lot of different timers, and everyone's got 2 timers, but it's a cooperative game. Actually, it's more than 2, isn't it? Yeah, it's 10 hourglasses, up to 4 players. Anyway, I can't remember how many it is per player, or it's been a while since I played it, but you've got a certain number, and then it's like, okay, flip it into the area, do the thing. Now wait, flip it. Oh, that timer's run out. Flip it into that area. Now wait. And this is the key thing that is at the heart of the action timer mechanism, the wait. It's pointed out in the book, which I would absolutely agree, in something like time and space, which I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. In time and space, it's when you move the timer onto the next space that you do the action for the previous space, which kind of leads to a little bit of confusion. It is generally better when you do the action as soon as you place on that space. Anyway, Kitchen Rush was successful enough that it was revised and redone. So congratulations to everyone involved. And finally, we come to Tamsk. Tamsk is the weirdest of all of these. Now, you're not waiting for the timer to end. You are waiting for the timer to almost end. So the first 3 moves, you have to move a new timer. So you start the timers running. If at any point the sand has completely run out, that timer is eliminated. But then at the same time, this is combined. It's not real time at all. There is, well, it is real time because there are sand timers, but it's not take your move whenever you want. No. You have to wait for the other person to take their move. There is an extra timer where you can say, okay, if you're ever delaying it, I'll just flip this 30-second timer, and you need to take your move before that 30-second timer runs out, because it's not meant to be about you just stalling because you've got a few more grains of sand in your thing than me. No, that's not how it's meant to be. But it's meant to be about, okay, I have to prioritize moving this, and maybe the opponent manages to trap it, because if all the places around it are occupied, then obviously it can't move. You're moving around the board and spreading rings, and it was removed from the GIF project. It was originally part of a line of abstract games, and because it was so different from everything else, it was removed. But this is, I would love to play this game one day, and you can tell in each of the pivots, some of them have only space for 1 ring, some of them have space for 2, then 3, and the middle space 4. So that's some of the ways in which action timers can be used. And I would say, yeah, Tamsk is the weirdest one. Kitchen Rush, just normal mode. Walkstar, again, it's kind of feels really weird. Wartime feels like, yeah, this is the natural evolution of action timers with like different numbers, and then you've got more modern games like Pendulum and whatnot. But yeah, so how does it impact a game? I think that action timers are really interesting because they force you to kind of be ready to move. It's not a case of, can I do this thing as quickly as possible? I need to do it quickly. It's, what do I need to do? I've got until that thing runs out to decide. And if I manage to decide my move within 5 seconds, I am at peak efficiency. And so as soon as it runs out, I'm like, okay, boom, that's where it's got to go. And you do your thing. And that ability to be at peak efficiency, it kind of reminds me in a sense of like a lot of mobile games or games that keep bringing you back on the internet where it's like, oh yeah, your little people have done this task and come back in an hour and a half and then do the thing. Like if those games are, just to bring you back, because if you come back the next day, then you feel like, oh, I wasted all this time. Now, those games are normally simplistic enough that winning in them is simply a matter of spending all your time at the computer, which is really insidious and it's not great. And that's not kind to the player at all. But in these ones, you still have the limited scope of it's just a 5 minutes, half an hour, 2-hour game, and then you're done. And you play this game, and each time it's like, well, maybe there is a better move. Maybe I could spend another 30 seconds thinking. But if I do, then I'm wasting all this time. And that is the key thing, that you have this pressure, but there's never a hard deadline. You can have the peak efficiency, and as opposed to a simple time limit, you never know, am I truly at peak efficiency? Because maybe rather than taking half a second, 0.5 seconds to pick up my cards, I could have taken 0.45 seconds to pick up each card. Whereas here, it slows the game down, and there is definitely a sort of time limit, and there's definitely a rush, but it adds enough time for you to genuinely ponder your stuff. Kind of similar to Camelot and like another mechanism that I'll get into. How versatile is it? Well, the big problem is really the manufacturing, where it costs lots of money. I mean, that I know with Kitchen Rush, it was like, will this ever get made? Because there's so many timers, and they need to be very specific. They need to be incredibly accurate. It will work with, I believe, any relatively simple game. You want to have something to consider. You want to make it so that when you're waiting for the timer to flip over, that shouldn't be downtime. That should be, okay, I can start planning even further ahead. I can plan more permutations ahead. But at the same time, it should be simple enough so that you don't feel terrible about making the decision as soon as the timer runs out. So you want to have that kind of balance. Complicated enough so that you don't get bored while the timer runs out and you can plan other things, but then simple enough so that you know what's going on. And again, like most real-time games, there is the potential for people to make mistakes. So again, simplicity is even better. I think people who would enjoy this are people who do like that little bit of pressure, but then they know that they aren't quite the fastest player at the table. So it's like, yeah, speed matters, but if you're faster than this amount, then you still need to wait. So it's like speed matters, and if you wait longer, then every time you're waiting longer than the 30-second timer, for example, then that's 2 seconds. Maybe you take 5, maybe you take 40 seconds. And if you take 40 seconds 3 times, someone else might have taken 4 actions in the time that you only took 3 actions. And so there is definitely a desire to be fast, but there's not quite the same pressure. And so it's almost like, who would enjoy it? The people who like the speed pressure but aren't quite fast enough for normal pressure, or maybe those who also enjoy a bit more strategy. It's really good at mixing the strategy. The problems with it, honestly, it's the production issues. All of these games, you've got people saying, oh, are these timers accurate enough? Is this good enough? And whether it's good enough or not is like down to the individual. Normally with a sun timer, there's like a 15% variance that's tolerated by a typical manufacturer. So 15%, that means that a 30-second sun timer, it might be 26 seconds, or it might be 34 seconds. And so if you've got one that's 26 and one that's 34, obviously if you've got both of those extremes, then it will be a problem for the game. But more likely it'll be like, okay, one's 32, one is 28, some others are 31, and one is 29, and one is 30. Exactly. And then hopefully people are able to overlook that. People who are really into, I can't tolerate any loss of the game being my fault, those people will not enjoy the game. And I think it's really interesting how Kitchen Rush became a cooperative game when it was submitted. I've got a little bit of background information. When it was submitted, it was a competitive game. Artipia came back and said, hey, how about a cooperative version? Before, maybe Rush MD became the competitive version. But with Kitchen Rush Cooperative, that means that you don't feel, oh, I'm losing to that person because my timers are a bit bad. You feel, okay, this game is marginally harder for us or marginally easier for us, and it doesn't quite matter. And so that's interesting how being a cooperative game, it's sidestepped. Yeah, exactly, Rob. Are they accurate enough is only really a problem for extremely competitive players or tournaments, etc. 100%. And the final question that I'd like to ask to not just myself, but also all of you, have we used it in any games? Would we? I mean, do you have it in a prototype of your own? I don't. I really love the idea, but the truth is I don't have an idea for how to make it totally different. And, great games with this already exist. It might be that there's a way to make it into a sort of family or even children's game and something that's a bit more mass market. But then again, if you go that route, then you get into the problems of, are people going to make accidental mistakes? And do you really want children waiting until the timer runs out? Are they just going to get bored? Would I rather just make another proper, like, go as fast as you can kind of game? But I do love the idea. I would love to use it, but I'd love to be able to bring something fresh. And one problem is, frankly, it's just a bit trickier to prototype, I'm not going to lie. Do I even have enough timers to know? But I would love to play around with it sometime. Yes, absolutely. And I think that the idea of action timers, I love playing with actual time, with, not just a game themed around time travel, but a game where you're actually playing with time, not just trying to be the fastest, but trying to be the fastest, but you can only, or something like the Camelot system, which I'll get into, where what's it called, action token, where it's passed around and then you can only move when you've got an action token, but then if the other action token comes to you, then your turn is essentially skipped. Like these kinds of games where it is real time, but then there's something else that makes it less real time. I think that's really interesting, and I think I would be more likely to do that. But yeah, do you have any plans for? I mean, I honestly don't have any direct plans or any immediate plans in the next year for any games using this, but never say never. Tell me what you think. And with that, I will start to wrap up, and let's get to the question of the day. Question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way. So my question of the day is, if you were paid £1 million, but you always had to wear a relatively thick Christmas jumper all the time, except when you're getting showered. So yeah, or could you actually just, you're allowed to take off the Christmas jumper only for half an hour maximum. Otherwise, assassins come after you. So that's the rule. You've got to wear a Christmas jumper. You can have a new Christmas jumper each day. It's got to be like a certain thickness. And so no matter how hot it is, you've got to wear this Christmas jumper. and you get £1,000,000, but for the rest of your life, you're only allowed to take it off for half an hour at most every day. Would you do that? And hello, Yoda. It is lovely to see you. Rob says, I have a game design in the pipeline that has a stand timer, but only as an actual timer. Yeah, that's completely different. And I want to just reiterate that Labot Chug should not be on this list. I have sent a request to Board Game Geek to take it off, but whether they get to it or not. Not planning action timers anytime soon. But yes, would you take £1,000,000? I mean, that's a really hard one because, yeah, I would hate to give it up, but I'm going to say no. This is, yeah, like I'm not going to. I don't think that I could, survive having to wear a Christmas jumper 23.5 hours every single day. Rob says, I would not do that. Being uncomfortable for the rest of my life is not worth £1,000,000. I mean, you're not uncomfortable for the entire rest of your life, just at certain times. I mean, if you were at Christmas, presumably it would be fairly comfortable. And but then also that's your top layer, so that means that you can't take anything off underneath. So that means that if I'm cycling, I've got to wear this one Christmas jumper. I'm never allowed to take it off. I can't even take it off to change. No, yeah, I'm not going to do that. How about you, Yoda? Would you wear a Christmas jumper for 23.5 hours every single day for £1,000,000? And then if you ever, have the jumper on for, if you ever go more than half an hour in one day without wearing a Christmas jumper, then you get assassinated. Would you do that? That's my question of the day. Sorry for the ridiculous thing. Over to you. What are you up to? You can share button if you want to. I am going to finalize some prototypes. I'm going to finalize. When I say finalize, I just mean, they're already kind of there. I playtested them on Friday. I'm going to make a few quick changes to seize the power. I've been pondering new hidden goals. So the rest of the game feels like it's kind of working, and I'm excited to try it out at Jugged Hair playtest. We've got the playtest. Officially, it starts at 1 o'clock. Rob, I assume you won't be there, because if you were there, I assume you wouldn't be watching me. But I am going to be cycling off in maybe 40 minutes. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone and to playing games and playing Seize the Power and seeing how people get on with it and seeing if the new hidden objectives kind of work. And I'm also going to playtest a game about selecting 7 cards, speedily searching for synergies, which is also a game where it's kind of timed and it's kind of real time, but it's not really. And I'll maybe get into that one day when it's a bit further along. Maybe next week. But yeah, if there's anything you want to share, then please do. Rob says, today I'm doing as little as possible until the heat goes away. Not going today. Hope it goes well. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy lazing around. To recap and wrap up before we finish up. To recap and wrap up. Action timers. They're fun. And they force you to think about, hey, what am I doing? And I've got like loads of time. I mean, when I say loads of time, it's like I've got 10 seconds or I've got maybe 20 seconds until I next have to think about these things. And if you've got 2 timers, then strategically you should be moving them both at the same time. And we talked about, having multiple timers is I didn't say, but having multiple timers is interesting. War time, where you've got 30, 60, and 90 seconds, that's definitely interesting. We've got to think about which time goes with which thing. You can have it like things where, this is really interesting. It's kind of like this game doesn't quite fit, but there's nothing where it fits better, where, you've got all the extra actions that you can do even when the timer isn't running. So then it means that it doesn't quite feel like an action timer game, because rather than all the pondering being in your mind, the limitation is actually your execution. And Kitchen Rush, for my money, is the kind of archetypal, really, really good. And we went to Tamsk, which is like the red-haired child, where rather than flip the timer once it's done. You want to flip the timer once it's almost done. That is the ideal time to flip the timer, because if you're flipping a timer when it's almost done, then that means that you get the maximum amount of time before you need to flip it again. If it's ever totally done in Tamsk, then you lose it. And there are some really interesting ramifications of these. I would love to work on it, but I don't have any plans. None of us have any plans to work on this. I'm playtesting Rob's Blazing Grounds. Yoda's celebrating their mother's birthday a week early. The whole family will go for a bike ride. That sounds fantastic. And that feels like a very appropriate thing, considering you are Netherlands or Yoda. If you want to check me out, I am, of course, Stuff by Bez in all the places. I do have a new game up on my shop, stuffbybez.bigcartel.com. I'm going to be putting up original art and stuff over the next week or so. If there's any type of art that you would particularly like to see, then let me know. But I've upgraded my shop, and now I can sell more than 5 things. My stuffbybez.com/streams. Tomorrow I'm having Phil Vizcaro back on the show to talk about their publishing company. On Tuesday, I was going to have a meeting about Seize the Power, but because of the heat week, that's been cancelled. I will probably chat about something that I'm working on, maybe about selecting 7 cards and speedily searching for synergies. Maybe I'll talk to you all about that. Wednesday, Jess Medringham will come back on for a chat. Thursday, a quick solo thing before I head off to do a recording. And then maybe, definitely Friday will be my 700th show. And my 700th show will feature Rita Model, Kathleen Mercury, Rui and Laurie, Liz Davidson, Dr. Tanya Pabuda, Josie Finch, Rose, Jessica Medringham, Tanya Thompson, Nikki Valens, and also T. Cares. I'm excited to have all of these people on. Please share, spread the word. That is going to be an extended show running from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m., 5:30, 5:40, I don't know. Thank you very much, everyone. It has been lovely to have you. Thank you for being here, Rob and Timmy and Yoda. Rob says, I wish I could actually laze around. So much to do, just trying to minimize anything that requires energy while it's so hot. Yeah, I get you. Like, are you just talking about life admin, like all the cleaning and all the cooking, and like, or just talking about the general stuff? But yeah, I hope that you kind of, manage to, be okay and stay safe. I've got to admit, I'm quite enjoying the heat, but yeah, when I was a child, I used to go to Iran every summer, where it was about 43 degrees, and that was like about as high as it got, but it was just, every midday you don't go out. And so, it just occurs to me, I am going out something. Yeah, it's fine. But lots of love to everyone. All I want to say for now is, of course, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Juju, bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go to bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye. Have a lovely day. Enjoy yourself and take pleasure in whatever you're doing. Bye, bye, Timmy. Bye, bye, Rob. Bye, bye, Oda. Lots of love. Bye, bye. Bye, bye, everyone else who's watching after the fact or is lurking. Goodbye.